I reached out to my DNA matches thinking I'd found distant cousins. I should have left them alone. I'm 18 and my dad has always been my hero. My mom loves telling the story of how he used to travel constantly for work when I was a toddler. But when I turned 3, he took a local warehouse job so he could finally be home with us. A few months ago, I took a DNA test with my friends just for fun, expecting to find out I'm part Irish or something. Instead, my results said I had 3 close family matches with names I didn't recognize. I figured dad must have a sibling he never mentioned, which meant I had cousins out there. I quickly sent messages to all 3 asking if they wanted to figure out how we were connected, delighted by the idea of meeting my newfound family. They all wrote back within a few days, and their names were Wyatt, Jackson, and Mila. They were siblings who had taken the test together, and they told me their dad disappeared when they were kids. We started a group chat and began comparing family trees to see how we might be related. I asked where they grew up, and Wyatt said the same city my dad is from. Jackson mentioned their dad worked in medical sales and traveled constantly before he left. My chest went tight, but I told myself it was just a coincidence. Mila said their dad was around a lot when she was really little, but then he started being gone more and more until one day he just never came back. Wyatt said he was 14 when it happened, and Jackson said he was 10. I suggested we share old family photos to see if anyone looked familiar, and Wyatt said he would check their albums. 20 minutes later, a photo popped up in the group chat with a message saying it was from a birthday party years ago. I opened it and the air left my lungs. My dad was standing in the photo. Not someone who looked like him, but actually him. Younger and without glasses, but unmistakably him with his hands on a little girl's shoulders wearing a shirt that said, "World's Best Dad." The date stamp said 15 years ago, and I would have been 3 years old. I stared at the photo trying to make sense of what I was seeing and typed, "Wait, that's my dad," before I could think it through. The group chat went silent for a moment, and then Jackson asked, "What do you mean that's your dad?" I typed back, "It's actually my dad. He's lived with me my whole life." Wyatt said their mom spent years trying to find him and thought maybe he had died because he just vanished. Jackson said he spent his entire childhood thinking he wasn't good enough for his dad to stay. Mila said she barely remembered what he looked like anymore because all their photos were packed away in boxes. I went downstairs and found dad loading the dishwasher. He smiled when he saw me and asked how my day was. I held up my phone with the photo on the screen and his face drained of all color. He grabbed the counter to steady himself and said my name like a question. I asked him who these people were and he closed his eyes for a long moment before opening them again. He asked how I found them and I told him about the DNA test. He stood there silent and then said, "They were supposed to stay gone." I stared at him. "Does mom know about any of this?" He shook his head. "She thought she met me after my divorce." "She has no idea I was still married when we got together." He said when I was born he tried to keep both families going because he loved all his kids, but his first wife started getting suspicious and threatening to hire a private investigator. I asked why he couldn't just get divorced like a normal person and his face changed. He looked away from me and said there was someone else. Another woman who lived near his first family. She got pregnant and when the baby was born it had Down syndrome. She was trying to prove he was the father and his first wife was about to find out about all of it. "I looked at you," he said, "and I looked at that situation and I made a choice. You were perfect and healthy and I couldn't handle a special needs kid on top of everything else." He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I made my choice 15 years ago and I chose us. Those kids had their mother and they were fine. Our family is good and happy." He looked right at me. "You don't get to ruin this just because you're curious about people who don't matter anymore." I told Wyatt, Jackson, and Mila everything that night. About the other woman and the baby with Down syndrome that dad abandoned before he disappeared. We spent hours searching through old social media posts and public records and parent groups in their area. Mila found a woman who'd been posting for years in local forums asking if anyone knew a man who matched dad's description from 15 years ago. She had a teenage son with Down syndrome who had dad's eyes and dad's smile. We reached out to her and she responded within an hour. We told her we'd found him and that her son had 4 half-siblings who wanted to meet him. She said yes.